Also, I do have to do something else.
Just need to press the button, start live. Yeah. So to go on?
Yeah. Okay, the live.
Umagyanatimarandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurave Namaha. So it is a reading from the famous Sri Guru and His Grace. We're going to start from the very beginning and go through the book so everyone can we can go through it together from the very beginning. There was a reading that was going on, but it got a little somewhat disjointed, so we're going to restart from the beginning of this epic piece of literature. And Sri Guru and His Grace talks about Guru Tattva, which is the Tattva is like a reality, or literally something like a thing. So it describes what Guru is, the function of Guru, everything that is Guru and how it should be approached is encapsulated in, or is Guru Tattva. And Sri Guru and His Grace is a modern scripture on the science of Guru Tattva, and modern as in it's very practical and very applicable. So it contains both the theory of Guru Tattva and how it can be applied in a contemporary setting. And that leads to something of the background of Sri Guru and His Grace, which was brought about out of necessity for an understanding of what Guru Tattva actually is, how it can be appreciated and applied in the modern context. So, after the departure of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the leaders of his society, ISKCON, were a little uncertain about how to carry on the role of the guru or spiritual instruction in that society. And that is understandable, because at the junction of any spiritual generation, i.e. when the acharya or the guru departs and someone else is tasked with carrying on the spiritual leadership of a society, that's a very vulnerable point. And history tells us that it's a time that tests a person's faith. And the Guru Tattva is vulnerable to misinterpretation. So there is a heightened need for an understanding of Guru Tattva, of the nature and role of genuine spiritual instruction. And that is how Sri Guru and His Grace came about, when ISKCON's new leaders found themselves in a position where they needed authoritative guidance, where they needed shiksha that they could trust and have full faith in. They followed the instructions of their spiritual master, recently departed spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and they approached Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, for exactly that, some guidance on how to proceed, on how to take care as gurus of Srila Prabhupada's society, how to take care of that society. And as a well-wisher and as the person most qualified by far to provide such guidance, Srila Guru Maharaj did so, and Sri Guru and His Grace came about as a result of consultations between younger devotees who found themselves in a position of responsibility, and Guru Maharaj, who is presenting Guru Tattva to them. And so this book, Sri Guru and His Grace, is a transcription, largely a transcription of those talks, that presentation by Guru Maharaj. And I heard from Goswami Maharaj, who was the facilitator of this, who brought this book about through his publishing activities, that he originally had a title in mind, Guru Heavier Than the Himalayas. And he presented it tentatively to Guru Maharaj as a possible title. And Guru Maharaj was like, a little unsure about it, and suggested Sri Guru and His Grace.
You said that is a partial conception.
Yes, I was just going to say that is one of the attributes of Guru, is that Guru can be heavy, and the responsibility of a Guru is heavy, and there may be a necessity of weightiness to his instructions. The honouring of those instructions is a very weighty, is a formidable responsibility on the part of the disciple as well, at times. But it's just a partial aspect of what the Guru is, of Guru Tattva. So at the beginning should we read we should read the preface, should we? Yes.
Yeah, let's start from the very beginning.
And this is a talk by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, given in 1936 in Mumbai. In 10 short years, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada inundated the world with Krishna consciousness. In the following excerpt from one of his essays, he smashes the sectarian misconception that the spiritual master is limited to a particular person, form, or institution, and establishes the universal conception of Guru. Shakshad daridvena samasta shastre uktas tata bhavyata eva sadbi kintu prabhurya priya eva tasya vande guru shri charanarvindam. In the revealed scriptures, it is declared that the spiritual master should be worshipped like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this injunction is obeyed by pure devotees of the Lord. The spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord. Thus, let us offer our respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of our spiritual master. Gentlemen, on behalf of the members of the Bombay branch of the Gaudiya Math, let me welcome you all, because you have so kindly joined us tonight in our congregational offerings of homage at the lotus feet of the world teacher, Acharya Dev, who is the founder of the Gaudiya mission and is the president Acharya of Sri Sri Vishva Vaishnav Rajya Sabha. I mean, my eternal divine master, Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. 62 years ago, on this auspicious day, the Acharya Dev made his appearance by the call of Thakur Bhakti Vinod at Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham. Gentlemen, the offering of such a homage as has been arranged this evening to the Acharya Dev is not a sectarian concern, for when we speak of the fundamental principle of Guru Dev or Acharya Dev, we speak of something that is of universal application. There doesn't arise any question of discriminating my Guru from yours or anyone else's. There is only one Guru who appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others. In the Mundaka Upanishad 1-12, it said, Tad Vijnanartam Sagurum Eva Bigachachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. In order to learn the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession, who is fixed in absolute truth. Thus, it's been enjoined herewith that in order to receive that transcendental knowledge, one must approach the Guru. Therefore, if the absolute truth is one, about which we think there is no difference of opinion, the Guru cannot be too. The Acharya Dev to whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage is not the Guru of a sectarian institution or one out of many differing exponents of the truth. On the contrary, he is the Jagat Guru, or the Guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, while others do not obey him directly. In the Bhagavatam 11:17-27, it is said, Acharyam mam vijaniyan navamanyate karhijit narmatya buddha suyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. One should understand the spiritual master to be as good as I am, said the Blessed Lord. Nobody should be jealous of the spiritual master or think him as an ordinary man, because the spiritual master is the sum total of all demigods. That is, the Acharya has been identified with God himself. He has nothing to do with the affairs of this mundane world. He appears before us to reveal the light of the Vedas and to bestow upon us the blessings of full-fledged freedom, after which we should hanker every step of our life's journey. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was first uttered by God to Brahma, the creator of this particular universe. From Brahma, the knowledge descended to Narad, from Narad to Vyasadeva, from Vyasadeva to Madhva, and in this process of disciplic succession, the transcendental knowledge was transmitted by one disciple to another until it reached Lord Gauranga, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who posed as the disciple and successor of Sri Ishwarapuri. The present Acharya Dev is the 10th disciplic representative from Sri Rupa Goswami, the original representative of Lord Chaitanya, who preached this transcendental tradition in its fullness. The knowledge that we receive from our Gurudev is not different from that imparted by God himself, and the succession of the Acharyas in the precept, and non-different from the succession of the Acharyas in the preceptorial line of Brahma. We adore this auspicious day as Sri Vyasapuja Tithi because the Acharya is the living representative of Vyasadeva, the divine compiler of the Vedas, Puranas, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam. We cannot know anything of the transcendental region by our limited, perverted method of observation and experiment, but all of us can lend our eager ears for the oral reception of the transcendental sound vibration transmitted from that region to this through the unadulterated medium of Sri Gurudev or Sri Vyasadeva. Therefore, gentlemen, we should surrender ourselves today at the feet of the representative of Sri Vyasadeva for the elimination of all our differences bred by our unsubmissive attitude. It is accordingly said in the Bhagavad Gita 4:34, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. Just approach the wise and bona fide spiritual master, surrender unto him first, and try to understand him by inquiries and service. Such a wise spiritual master will enlighten you with the transcendental knowledge, for he has already known the absolute truth. To receive transcendental knowledge, we must completely surrender ourselves to the real Acharya in a spirit of ardent inquiry and service. Actual performance of service to the Absolute, under the guidance of the Acharya, is the only vehicle by which we can assimilate transcendental knowledge. Today's meeting for offering our humble services and homage to the feet of the Acharya Dev will enable us to be favored with the capacity of assimilating the transcendental knowledge so kindly transmitted by him to all persons without distinction. Gentlemen, although it is imperfectly that we have been enabled by his grace to understand the sublime messages of our Acharya Dev, we must admit that we have realized definitely that the divine message from his holy lips is the congenial thing for suffering humanity. All of us should hear him patiently. If we listen to the transcendental sound without unnecessary opposition, he will surely have mercy upon us. The Acharya's message is to take us back to our original home, back to God. Let me repeat, therefore, that we should hear him patiently, follow him in the measure of our conviction, and bow down at his lotus feet for releasing us from our present causeless unwillingness for serving the Absolute and all souls. Sitting at the feet of Acharyadev, let us try to understand him from this transcendental source of knowledge. What we are, what is this universe, what is God, and what is our relationship with him. The message of Lord Chaitanya is the message for the living entities and the message of the living world. Lord Chaitanya did not bother himself for the upliftment of this dead world, which is suitably named Martyoloka, the world where everything is destined to die. He appeared before us 450 years ago to tell us something of the transcendental universe, where everything is permanent and everything is for the service of the Absolute. But recently, Lord Chaitanya has been misrepresented by some unscrupulous persons, and the highest philosophy of the Lord has been misinterpreted to be the cult of the lowest type of society. We are glad to announce tonight that our Acharyadev, with his usual kindness, saved us from this horrible type of degradation, and therefore we bow down at his lotus feet with all humility. We are happy that we have been relieved of this horrible type of malady by the mercy of his divine grace. He is our eye-opener, our eternal Father, our eternal preceptor, and our eternal guide. Let us therefore bow down at his lotus feet on this auspicious day. Gentlemen, although we are like ignorant children in the knowledge of transcendence, still my Gurudev has kindled a small fire within us to dissipate the invincible darkness of empirical knowledge. We are now so much on the safe side that no amount of philosophical argument by the empiric schools of thought can deviate us an inch from the position of our eternal dependence on the lotus feet of his divine grace. Gentlemen, had he not appeared before us to deliver us from the thraldom of this gross worldly delusion, surely we should have remained for lives and ages in the darkness of helpless captivity. Had he not appeared before us, we would not have been able to understand the eternal truth of the sublime teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Personally, I have no hope for any direct service in the coming crores of births in the sojourn of my life, but I am confident that some day or other I shall be delivered from this mire of delusion in which I am at present so deeply sunk. Therefore, let me with all my earnestness pray at the lotus feet of my Divine Master to allow me to suffer the lot for which I am destined due to my past misdeeds, but to let me have this power of recollection, that I am nothing but a tiny servant of the Almighty Absolute Godhead, realized through the unflinching mercy of my Divine Master. Let me therefore bow down at his lotus feet with all the humility at my command. Abhay Charandas, for members of the Gaudiya Math, Bombay. And so it says this lecture was originally published in The Harmonist, which was one of the magazines of the Gaudiya Math, in 1936, on the Advent day of His Divine Grace on Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that would have been the final Vyasa Puja observance while Saraswati Thakur was physically present on the planet. And The Harmonist was that was the English publication of the Gaudiya Math, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And the Gaudiya was Bengali.
Right. So there's a couple of interesting points that could be, well, there's many interesting points in here, in this short essay written by Srila Prabhupada for Siddhanta Saraswati's, would have been 60-second birthday Vyasa Puja. And one which is provides an interesting even paradox, one could say, or conundrum, is the fact that the point is being made that the Guru is one, Guru Tattva, that substance or that thing that acts to lift the jiva who is in a state of ignorance to a state of pure consciousness and devotion. That Guru Tattva can take a variety of external appearances in order to conduct its activities. The Guru can perform his function in a myriad of forms, and it is not the form that is of instrumental importance, but rather the living substance that is being conducted through that form. The only, or one of the possible drawbacks in coming to understand such a function of the Guru as providing a spiritual substance, as focusing on the quality and the nature of the Guru's spiritual instruction rather than the form. As Guru Maharaj himself says where, and I would imagine it's later in this book, that wherever someone finds the pure current of Krishna consciousness available, they must immediately purchase it for whatever price it's being offered for, which is generally always an eager desire to obtain such divine substance. Which, of course, supports the point just made, that wherever it's available, it's not necessarily just available in one place. And if it's available in different places, then that suggests that a multiplicity of forms may be involved in the distribution of that spiritual substance. And then the contention arises that one may, the possible drawback is that the nature of the mind is to desire and search after objects that it does not have in its own possession. What one has, one tends to not appreciate it so much. It's the nature of the mind. It becomes complacent towards those things that are in its possession. But that does not imply satisfaction. It simply means that there is somewhat of a dissatisfaction with what one has and a longing after what one does not have. And there is a saying, the grass is always greener on the other side, which sums up this principle. And this is the nature of the mind when it is focused on achieving some kind of happiness from temporary objects, from the material realm, the realm of the senses, both subtle and physical, the realm of the mind and the body. But the problem is when such a condition is applied to Guru Tattva, there is a dangerous possibility of misassessing or misreading the instruction that Guru can appear in a multiplicity of forms. And the person is simply following the dictates of their mind, of being dissatisfied with what they have and looking for something that they don't have. So they're applying, they're projecting the conditioning of their own fickle mental nature onto the spiritual nature, and thus they end up disloyal or not able to capitalize on Guru Tattva. And of course the reasoning that the mind will produce to support such an approach is a true principle, but the motive in the approach to that principle is faulty. And that has to be borne in mind when understanding the universality of Guru Tattva. There is also, it may be universal, but that does not mean it's accessible necessarily, universally accessible to people. To make it, before a person can see Guru everywhere, before a person can tap in a real fashion to the universality of Guru Tattva, they must have gone through a preliminary process of purification and surrender in order to purify the mind so that what they perceive as Guru is indeed Guru and not just a whimsical function of the mind selecting something that it does not have over something that it feels it has. And until one reaches that state of purified vision, purified heart, then it is sometimes safer to focus more on a particular, a narrower definition of Guru. Not to say that a universal definition does not exist, but to prematurely attempt to operate and act based on that universal definition leaves one open to the whimsical dictates of the mind. And so when Srila Prabhupada is saying here that the Guru is one and takes many forms, which we'll just find it here. There's a... Whenever you look for something, you can't find it, right? Anyway, I can't spot it immediately.
I can look for it here.
Okay.
Text. What is the line?
Right, so, okay, in this paragraph here.
Here we are. It's begins gentlemen, the offering.
Exactly, I'm looking at exactly the same one. Yeah, I've found it. So it says, gentlemen, the offering of such a homage as has been arranged this evening to Acharya Dev is not a sectarian concern. The fundamental principle is of universal application. And there's no discriminating my guru from yours or anyone else's. And that the famous verse, Acharya mam vijaniyan. So the guru is identified with Krishna himself. And then, towards the end of the text, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the eternality of one's relationship with the personal guru. It says, His Divine Grace, He is our eye-opener, our eternal Father, our eternal preceptor, and our eternal eternal guide. Let us therefore bow down at His lotus feet on this auspicious day. So we have a concept of the guru being not simply identified with a limited or with a physical form, with the guru acting as a perfect representative of the Absolute, of Krishna, and thus Krishna saying that he himself is seen as the ultimate guru. So the Guru Tattva cannot be bound by any sectarian concern or any relative definition of any ephemeral definition. But at the same time, one's guru is considered an eternal guide. So there's an eternal relationship, and that implies everything that goes along with something that's eternal. So there's an element of dedication, of service, and of loyalty. And until that quality of relationship with the guru has been achieved, then the broader vision, the quantity, seeing the guru everywhere, is going to be impossible to appreciate. Until one's quality of vision, has been achieved, until the quality of relationship with guru has been achieved, then applying that in quantity is not going to happen. So the quantity in terms of the Guru Tattva, the universality of Guru Tattva, is only appreciated once quality has been achieved. Shall we start reading from the introduction?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the introduction to Sri Guru and His Grace by Srila Guru Maharaj. To err is human, to err is inevitable for all, being not perfect. Still, no one wants to remain imperfect. There is an element within all that is animate, that tends towards perfection. If it were not so, we would feel no want at all. Our tendency towards perfection is certainly very weak and limited. Otherwise, we would attain the goal at once. Our limited capacity and tendency for perfection makes room for the guide or guru. Very simple and clear, huh?
So perfect, that line, so perfect.
The imperfect is not so if it is not in need of help, and that also from beyond itself. The perfect is not perfect if he cannot assert himself or help others, and that too of his own accord. So the guidance to perfection or absolute truth is necessarily a function of the Absolute himself, and the divine agent through whom this function manifests is Sri Guru, or the divine guide. For a seeker of the Absolute Truth, submission to the Guru is unavoidable. And this applies to all aspects of spiritual life. I was listening to a talk by Gurudev. I was listening to an audio book where it's read out of his first Western tour. So his first Western destination was Australia, correct? I think via Singapore, perhaps.
Via Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the early 90s sometime. 91 or 92, I think.
Yeah.
And so this talk was from that tour. I don't think it was from Australia. I think it was in SoCal. And it was a semi-public talk. And some of the talks at that stage were also, Gurudev was being asked a few questions relating to kind of Guru Tattva, etc. Because it was his first world tour as the Savaiti Acharya, the president Savaiti Acharya of the Mat. And so he was being kind of publicly or internationally established or in that function, in that role. And devotees or others that were somewhat familiar with Krishna consciousness were coming and listening to hear him talk. And those that knew Gurudev a little better were asking, you could say, prompter questions to get Gurudev to talk about the role of the Guru and initiation, etc. Because sometimes others were coming with perhaps a little closed-minded attitude, perhaps tinged with a little bit of sectarianism. Mm. And so it was appropriate that Gurudev was being prompted by some of his friends and fellow devotees to talk on issues that may address such concerns or misconceptions. Anyway, a talk from that tour, and Gurudev was talking about he's asked a question about chanting Hare Krishna, Harinam. And there was an idea that the holy name is all-powerful. And if the holy name is all-powerful, then really doesn't that seem to supplant the need for a guru? It's all-powerful. If the holy name is all-powerful, why does it need a guru to activate it? It's all-powerful.
Instant holy name.
Yeah.
Just add water.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gurudev said that yes, the holy name is all powerful, but it must be delivered by someone who is able to access that power, and that the chanting of the holy name, without it being given, is going to have a purifying effect. It's going to have an auspiciously purifying effect. But the role of the guru is imperative, as in the seed of bhakti is planted, and that will then germinate through the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that is ultimately the idea of chanting, is that it gets to the stage where Rupa Goswami has a famous verse, and I forget the Sanskrit. I think it... Yeah. So the holy name enters the ears and captures the heart. And
oh, you mean the one where he's saying thousands of tongues. Or...
Yeah, it could be that one. It could be the one quoted alongside that. I completely forget.
You're talking about the verse saying that diksha is not required?
No. I'm talking about the one which describes the effect.
Oh, that's tunde, tandari,
Right.
tandita, nute, that
Yeah.
verse, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And as it's quoted, he's encouraged to quote it to Mahaprabhu in Puri, right?
Yes, when he's being examined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very beautiful verse.
Yeah. So for that, and that you could say is the pinnacle of the expression of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, its effect of the pure chanting. And that is the maturity, germination, the growth, and the production of fruit from that initial seed that is planted at the time of Harinam initiation. So although the holy name is all powerful, there is a necessity of a delivery system. Some kind of delivery system. Yeah. And
there's a name for that, like in chemistry, isn't there? Like for if you're giving some particular, like, you know, chemical combination to someone, you need some agent to...
Oh, it's a catalyst.
Maybe a catalyst, something.
In chemistry, yeah, it's a catalyst. That
Srila Prabhupada Swami, he calls, Guru the activating principle, right?
Okay, yeah.
Surrender to, there's that famous expression, the activating principle of spiritual life is surrender to Guru. Like that. So yeah, catalyst.
Yeah. You could say a king or an emperor may be all-powerful. No one is denying that. But it doesn't grant an ordinary citizen access to the emperor. There needs to be some connection. And thus the function of Guru, the necessity of Guru. And we may feel encouraged that the writer of this, well, it wasn't written with a pen as such, but the giver of this book, Srila Guru Maharaj, also gave us the Pranam mantra for our Gurudev. The line is which Bhagavat Prem no hi bija pradam. A specific reference to the planting of that spiritual seed at the time of Harinam initiation. For a seeker of the absolute truth, submission to the Guru is unavoidable. A class of thinkers believe, however, that when scientific research is possible, why cannot higher spiritual knowledge also be evolved from within? Such people are ignorant of the most essential nature of absolute knowledge, that he alone is the absolute subject, and all else, including ourselves, constitutionally stand only as an object to his omniscient vision. It is impossible for the eye to see the mind. It can have some connection with the mind only when the latter cares to mind it. In a similar way, our connection with absolute knowledge depends mainly on his sweet will. We must solely depend on his agent or the spiritual master through whom he likes to distribute himself. Our human society, with its finest culture, forms but an infinitesimal part of the absolute, of the dynamic absolute. How, except by the direct and positive method of revelation, dare we hope to comprehend or evolve any conception of the supernatural knowledge of the unconditioned infinite? All intellectual giants prove themselves but pygmies before the absolute omniscient omnipotence, who reserves the right to give himself away through his own agents alone. There we go. So that's the point that we were just talking about, expressed perfectly by Guru Maharaj. So although the holy name is all-powerful, still being one with Krishna, the right is reserved. You say, yes, all-powerful, the name can reveal itself, but all-powerful also implies a choice to reveal itself however it chooses to do so. And Guru Maharaj says, reserves the right to give himself away through his own agents alone. To our best knowledge and sincerity, however, we should see not to submit to a false agent. Here, of course, we can't help ourselves very much, because in our present state, we're mainly guided by our previous samskar, or acquired nature. Birds of the same feather flock together. Yet, although we are generally overpowered by habit, there is still the possibility of free choice to a certain extent, especially in the human species. Otherwise, correction becomes impossible, and punishment mere vengeance. Reality can assert itself. Light does not require darkness for its positive proof. The sun by itself can establish its supremacy over all other lights. Before an open and unbiased eye, the Sadguru, real guide, shines above all professors of phenomenon. Sri Guru manifests himself mainly in a twofold way, as the director from within and the preceptor from without. Both functions of the Absolute help an individual soul, a disciple, to reach the absolute goal. In our fallen state, we cannot catch the proper direction to the inner guide, so the merciful manifestation of the preceptor without is our sole help and hope. But at the same time, it is only by the grace of the Guru within that we can recognize the real preceptor without and submit to his holy feet.
It's like amplifying of one's own heart.
Well, what was that? Sorry, I didn't hear
It's
that.
like amplifier of one's own heart. When you can't hear your own heart, Guru, he says things which your own heart is telling you, but you just don't hear it. But when you hear it, you actually recognize that, wow, that's like something so like deep within you. That's like, yes, it's true. I know that. It resonates, totally resonates with your heart. But without His mercy, you can't hear your own heart. So
Yes.
Nice.
A type of mutually beneficial relationship is being described, right? Like a symbiosis between the Guru within and without. Should we look at that one again? In our fallen state, we can't catch proper direction to the inner guide, so the manifestation of the preceptor without is our help and hope. But at the same time, the grace of the Guru within that we can recognize the real preceptor without. It's like it reminds me of the initial stages of the nine gradational levels of bhakti, from Shraddha up to Prema. And so you get Shraddha, and then the second one is Sadhu Sanga. So someone can say, well, you need Shraddha first, and then you get Sadhu Sanga. But how are you going to have Shraddha if you haven't gotten any mercy from the devotees through Sadhu Sanga? So it seems like, you need Shraddha to want to associate with the devotees, but you need devotees' association to have Shraddha. And it's mentioned that they do work in tandem. And often is the answer may be in Agyata Sukriti, where a person may be the subject of or the object of some kind of causeless mercy, and then they have a desire, a faith in associating with devotees, further strengthening their faith. I heard I'm trying to remember where I heard it. I think it might be in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where it's mentioned that there are two stages of Sadhu Sanga. There is one which is almost Sadhu Sanga by default, Sadhu Sanga by accident, by chance, which has a purifying effect, that purifying effect can be equated with Agyata Sukriti. And then, as a result of the initial purification, a person develops faith and then returns for some more conscious and aware Sadhu Sanga. Like two stages of Sadhu Sanga. One is kind of initially by chance, one could say, and another one then is a conscious choice from that platform of faith which precedes the Sadhu Sanga. Okay. A bona fide disciple must always remain fully awake to the fact that his highest spiritual fortune is but a gracious grant from the Absolute Lord, and not a matter of right to be demanded or fought out. Constitutionally, we are equipped only to be proper recipients of God's favor. In this connection, it should be clearly understood that an individual soul can never be substantially the same as the Absolute Person. Not even in his liberated or fully realized condition can an individual soul be one with Godhead. The misconception of oneness has been introduced from the slothful non-discrimination of the Absolute Personality from the luminous orb around his eternal, spiritual, and blissful home. In fact, an individual soul constitutes only a part of a particular power of intermediate value of the Supreme Lord, and as such he is capable of being converted from both sides. He differs from the Absolute Entity both in quantity and quality, and is merely a dependent entity on the Absolute. In other words, the Absolute Lord Krishna is the master, and an individual jiva soul is his constitutional subordinate or servant. Such a relationship is constant and really wholesome for the jiva. The apprehension of slavery does not arise because of his free choice and immense positive gain. The freedom and individuality of the jiva are not only unharmed by surrender to the Absolute Good, but they really thrive in him alone. Individual freedom and interest are the part and parcel of those who are of the Absolute, and so they are quite at home there, as a fish is at home in water, or an animal in a healthy atmosphere. But the freedom, as well as all other qualities of the Supreme Personality, are unlimited and transcendental, and so only by their partial functions do they harmonize all relative entities. Sri Guru is not exclusively the same as the Supreme Lord himself, but he fully represents the essence of the whole normal potency and embodies the most comprehensive and excellent service in favor of the Lord. As he is the fittest servitor of the Lord, he is empowered by the Lord to reinstate all misguided souls to their best interest. So Guru is the divine messenger of the immortal hope and joy in this mortal and miserable world. His advent is the most auspicious and happy event to the suffering animation and can be compared to the rising of the morning star that can guide the traveller lost in the desert. A gentle touch of Sri Guru's merciful hand can wipe away the incessant tears from all weeping eyes. A patriot or philanthropist makes the problem only worse in his frantic and futile attempt to alleviate the deep-rooted pain of a suffering soul, as an ignorant doctor does in eagerly handling an unfortunate patient. Oh, the day when this poor soul realizes the causeless grace of Sri Gurudev. And this is again, signed Swami B.R. Sridhar, an essay originally published in 1934 in The Harmonist.
Right, so this was on original English, isn't it?
I'd imagine so, yeah. Great. And so then next time, perhaps tomorrow, we can start on the book, the first chapter, is it? Yeah. We can start on the book proper. Yes. And so the chapter tomorrow is entitled Surrender to Sri Guru, which was just touched on. Sometimes people say the concept of Guru, it's, as Guru Maharaj says, it's not considered slavery, even though he uses the term slavery to describe later stages of spiritual surrender, and a term to describe a different concept. It's not what he's referring to here when he says the apprehension of slavery does not arise. And that is an objection by some, that I ain't bowing down before no man. I remember someone, devotee, talking to me that he was telling his brother about how he would bow down to his guru. And his brother said, I ain't bowing down before no man. No man alive, not bowing down. So the idea is that one is weak and incapable of standing on their own 2 feet, cannot trust their own mechanisms and faculties to succeed in the world, to serve their interest. And in a sense that's true, because Guru Maharaj himself says that it's okay to come to a position where you've lost faith in your ability to extract some kind of satisfaction from the external environment and everything that the world has to offer. Totally everything, both subtle and physical. If you've lost faith in that, if there's no longer any guarantee or even any hope of your ability to make it, to exploit, to so-called succeed, then that's okay, that's fine. And in fact, that's desirable, because often without coming to that platform, a person will continue to follow that misguided map of trust in their own faculties, their own sense of self-belief, and simply like following a wrong roadmap until you realize that, oh wow, I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm not going to reach the destination. So faith in one's abilities to somehow find any type of substantial satisfaction in non-spiritual pursuits is akin to driving along, down a road that one is not intending to drive down, or like going in the wrong direction, following a faulty map and going in the wrong direction. So until one loses faith in that map, then they're not going to be able to correct their course. And so I think the point that there is really the concept of acceptance of Guru is a beautiful thing. It's a joyful thing. It's something to celebrate. And both Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj are making this point at the end of their essays. Just to quickly revisit Srila Prabhupada's one, say, we are so much on the safe side. No argument of empiric schools of thought can deviate us an inch from the position of our eternal dependence. And talking about Savior
very
from...
nice, that line. Very nice.
Yes. He's not even talking about like sensuality, but Maya of a subtler type.
Yeah.
And talking about it and couching it as in what would have been had Gurudev not appeared, the thraldom of worldly delusion, and lives remained for lives and ages in the darkness of a helpless captivity. So what is seen by one who is unable to appreciate Guru Tattva actually is seen by those who can appreciate Guru and have not just a theoretical appreciation, but a practical, experiential appreciation. They see that material condition as one of helpless captivity. And other words you could use to describe it, helpless slavery, etc. So quite the opposite is what occurs when one surrenders to Guru, one of freedom and joy and rightful, justified optimism. All right, we'll finish there.
Yeah, very nice.